I'm the real deal, so authentic. I've got a seal of authenticity under my electricity. It's genetic. They don't make them like me anymore. They don't build it all strong from the roof to the floor. They don't make them like me anymore.
History of bartending. Ancient times. Traces of bartending can be found back in the ancient Greek, Roman and Asian societies, working in what were called pub drinking houses. Most of the bartenders in that time brewed their own drinks and were alehouse owners or innkeeper. 100 to 44 BC. Bartending began as a trade thousands of years ago. Historical accounts from the time of Julius Caesar show the inn situated along the major transportations routes serve wine and provisions to travelers. Western Europe, bartenders were part of the elites groups in France, England, Germany, and Ireland around the 15th century. Bartending was considered to be one of the wealthiest trades at the time. By the 15th century, bartenders throughout Europe were primarily known innkeepers, and these professionals typically produced their own spirit and ales. Pre-Prohibition 1830s, the bartending profession traveled over the New World from the Western Europe. The Pioneer Inn and Travel Law was passed by the United States Congress in 1832, allowing inns and saloons to serve alcohol to patrons not less than room. In the late 19th and early 20th century, bars went from being city spots hidden in alleyways to popular gathering spots. Women bartenders in 1895. Women, meanwhile, barely worked as bartenders. A rudimentary census in 1895 found just 147 women working as bartenders compared to nearly 56,000 men. Prohibition 1919. In 1919, mostly under pressure from the temperance movement and its political allies, the United States ratified the 18th Amendment in which the manufacture, transportation, and sale of alcohol was prohibited. This put a temporary halt to the bartending profession. After the rise of the cocktail in the early 20th century, Americans were faced with a prohibition law from the federal government. However, bartending culture remained alive through prohibitions. Working in underground, speakeasies bartenders continued to provide their patrons with delicious cocktails. Prohibition in the United States made the bartender culture stronger than even before in history and gave bartenders an aura of mystery and power. Gangsters in the mob-owned social club and bartenders were well paid for supplying them with the illegal substance of alcohol. Bartenders from the Prohibition period are credited with creating some of the most famous cocktails that was known today. Prohibition job opportunities for bartenders became so scarce during Prohibition that thousands of bartenders fled to Cuba. Americans inhabited many of the 7,000 Cuban bars according to Difford Guide. The amount of Americans emigrating to Cuba rose from 33,000 in 1914 to 90,000 in 1928. Prohibition ends at last. End of Prohibition in 1933, when a majority of states ratified the 21st First Amendment to repeal the Prohibition in 1933, bartenders were able to get back to work. The people behind the history of bartending. Jerry Thomas, also known as the father of American mixology, Jeremiah Jerry P. Thomas was an American who owned and operated bars in New York City. He is known for his revolutionary work of popularizing cocktails across the United States. He is also known author The Bartender's Guide, a seminal work on cocktails. William Boothby. American bartender and writer William T. Cocktail Bill Boothby tended the bar at San Francisco Palace Hotel in California. He authored multiple bar manuals such as The Cocktail Boothby American's Bartender, that contained numerous cocktail recipes invented by himself. Ernest Raymond Beaumont Gaunt, a Texas native, had been bootlegger during the American Prohibition period. He opened his first bar, Don's Beachcomber, in 1933, which later became known as Don the Beachcomber, a very successful chain of bars and restaurants. Apart from this, he also known for the popularizing the tiki fad in the US after the war. Victor Jules Bergeron, a man who created a multi-million-dollar chain of Trader Vic restaurants and bars, started out in San Francisco and with an investment of $800. A writer and self-taught artist, he wrote many books on food and drinks. His book included a standard reference work, Bartender's Guide, an autobiography called Frankly Speaking, Trader Vic's Own Story. Constante Ribal Guavert, born just outside of Barcelona in 1888, was the son of a barkeeper. Their family emigrated to Havana, where his father took a job at Popular Tavern. By 1918, he had assumed ownership of the bar called Floridita. William Schmidt. The only William Schmidt, a German immigrant, was one of the first celebrity bartenders of the USA. With an experience of almost 30 years of tending a bar, he published his first book, The Flowing Bowl. He created and published recipes for many crafted cocktails in his two books, one of which was a bartender guide involving old-school ingredients and elegant name for the drafts. Dale DeGroff. He is also known as the King of Cocktails or King Cocktail and is an American bartender and author. DeGroff has been called one of the world's foremost cocktail experts. In his book, The Craft of the Cocktail, he is considered as essential bartending, referenced by many. Harry Craddock was an English bartender who trained in the US and became one of the most famous bartenders of the 1920s and 1930s. He is known for his tenure at the Savoy Hotel in London and for his 1930 book, The Savoy Cocktail Book, which is renowned universally. Sasha Nathan Petrisk. He was the founder of the legendary New York City cocktail bar Milk and Honey, as well as a partner and creative force behind many of the world's most highly regarded bars such as Milk and Honey, White Star, Dutch Skills, and many more. During his lifetime, he was credited with inventing modern cocktail culture. Ada Coleman held the head bartender position for 23 years. It was the Savoy that she invented the cocktail hanky-panky. In the era, not only was she a woman in the world of male bartenders, but she took the bar to fame with her attracting elite crowds such as the likes of Charlie Chaplin and the Mark Twain.